Hello, beautiful souls, beautiful beings. Welcome back to Be an Omni. And today's question is a very fascinating question. And it came about in the time spent with some peers, friends here that I connect with locally at a weekly vibe session. And the answer that came through was very interesting, and it just allowed for more growth. And I hope to expand. My desire is to expand upon the answer that I received at this time with them. And so the question was, this is a rather lengthy question, so I just want you guys to hear and listen to the question and then the response that I will connect with again to express this. And so the question from my friend Heather was, she wanted to know was, tell me about the integration between the DNA of our earthly ancestors and how it mixes with our ethereal ancestors on a biological, spiritual level. Specifically, she's very interested in the way the violence of our animal cells blends with our ethereal part, especially with the male and how the male and female. So it's just really allowing yourself to understand the evolution of the spirit, allowing yourself to understand the evolution of the soul, the being. And initially, when the question came up and this energy is starting to flow back, but what I want to people, those who are watching this, or what I desire for you to understand, that the violence that we see, the violence that occurs, is more so due to the contrast. For us to really understand contrast, for us to really understand the energy of love and what love is. And so without the violence, we wouldn't know what love is. Because the space in which we come from, it's all love. It's pure, positive, loving energy, the space in which we come from, which is creator source energy. However, with the consistent space of love, the consistent space of peace, there is lack of growth. And so sometimes there does have to be chaos in order for growth and evolution to occur. Because how else will we know how to grow? How else will we know how to expand? How else will we know to do what we need to do to reach the level of plateau, the next level of love? Because I was just telling a friend the other day that, anyone who understands the chakra system, from the time you're born, you go through a 7-year cycle. So every 7 years, the chakra energies renew and adds another layer, another frequency, another subtle body to that space. And so with understanding this, it's like, well, wait, I'm coming up on a new cycle. And so I thought it was fascinating. And so with the understanding of these cycles, with getting to the next level, it's a necessity. And in this space of our ancestral lineage, our soul lineage, the DNA that we have, war, violence is encoded in such a way that is part of our tapestry, part of our energetic history, because of the great wars, such as the Orion Wars to begin with. That is one of great chaotic energy, and it lives in each of us, especially those who are part of it, those who died in it, at a soul level, in another life, in another galaxy far, far away. And so, with that understanding, we begin to understand that for growth, there has to be some form of lower vibrating energy. And one of the ways that in the spirit world, in the old ways, there has always been competition, in the way that we see it. On our planet, there's, the sports, there's, gladiator games back in Roman times. There's all these things, that has created distraction, but yet it also allows for elevation and growth, both physically, mentally, and sometimes even emotionally. However, there's the energy of what I like to call benevolent growth. And this is where the essence of this really comes from, or benevolent competition. Meaning that if you trace our times back to when we lived on the planet with our ancestors, way back when, 10,000, 20,000, 30, even 70,000 years ago, there's this energy of this benevolent competition of these games that we like to play and initiate. And the purpose of that is growth. And it's done in such a way that it allows for our soul to evolve in a peaceful way, in a way that is without harm to anyone. And that's the true intention of that. And so when we think about the space time energy of our ancestors, of the male energy, you have to understand that the male energy is designed to procreate. And the breakdown of that is to protect the creation, meaning that female energy, divine feminine energy, is the creator. And it has the will to create and protect at the same time, because it's a divine energy. It has no gender, it has no label. It is what it is. And so in order to have the experience with self, it decided to create its counterpart. And the counterpart needs a creation. And procreate, protect the creation, is that divine male energy. And so as it is inherent in us as protectors to possibly enact in violence, to protect the creator, to protect the creation, to be the guardians, if you will, of this divine energy. And I'm just laughing because I had a moment, because I watched this show on Amazon, Wheel of Time, and the women wield the power of the one, the creator, and the men are the protectors of the women when they channel this energy. It's just funny how all of this is coming up. And so the construct of the male energy is not of a violent nature. It's just one of protection and guardianship. So we are not inherently violent or inherently evil. It is learned through the desire to protect. It is learned through us allowing ourselves for growth, for this divine energy that we hold to spark the evolution of self, because we wouldn't know what we would know if we didn't have the chaos, if we didn't have the violence. We wouldn't know how to get to the next level of love, because it's interesting in how when we come here, you have to remember that we fall into the space of amnesia. We remember nothing, especially, after age 5, we really don't remember anything of our past life, of our energy, of our time in the astral, in the space, in between spaces, in the ethers. Unless we do work here presently to remember, to know the truth of who and what we are. And so as we move through these stages, as we understand these tiers of energy to get to the next level, we started out as 3D, and now we're on 4D, and then we're going to move eventually into 5D, and then higher and higher and higher. But we get there through understanding the levels and the contrast and the constructs of each space. and allowing the energy that's interwoven in us, in our DNA, in our cells, in all that we have, to have something new. And that's basically what this all is to understand the layers and levels to create newness. And there's never been such a time universally where there is construction and destruction at the same time. It's simultaneous, and we're at an acceleration point in our time where everything is accelerated, and it's purposeful. So that way, you know, in past civilizations, there was always the downfall, and then there was always the rise. But now there's the downfall and the rise happening at the same time, so that way we can get to where we need to get to faster. And that's why we all feel out of place or lost, so to speak, to put it loosely. But it just also brings up the energy of encouragement, the energy of allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel when you need to feel it, to move forward, to allow the momentum that you create with the thought and the consciousness to emerge, to show you, to guide you on your path and purpose. So violence is almost a necessity. Chaos is a necessity because, there's the energy that I work with, which are the four primary forces, four builders. They've been called many things, and they were spawned from the Creator to bring order to chaos. And so now it's all happening simultaneously. So we are allowing ourselves to bring the order, to organize the energy, to subdue the chaos, to allow for the peace, to allow for the love, to allow for our heart's desire to ring true. And I hope, Heather, you see this, that this is an expansion of what we talked about last week, and brings a more of a clarity to understanding the energetic space in which we live in, to understand the energetic space in which we thrive and develop and grow, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the growth, the intention of growing, evolving. And sometimes, you have to tear down the building, break up the foundation, create a new foundation with the new or similar beliefs, and start all over again, because no one is who they were yesterday. No one is who they were a year ago. No one is who they were 5 years ago, and definitely no one was who they were 10 or 20 years ago. We still have some of the same core beliefs, yet be altered, but they are still who we are at the soul and core level. One of the things about me, if anyone has followed me for a while, know my videos, since the time I was born, always had fruit, every day, eat apples every day, not as much as I used to, and then, eating cereal, Saturday morning cartoons. It's finding those things that make up who you are. It's understanding why you do what you do that brings you joy. And yes, violence, change, it's all a part of the bigger tapestry. And once we begin to understand the guidance that we have here, we then can evolve and grow and create something new and protect what is sacred to us. And then once we move into the new space of love, there's no need for protection, because love is love. Love conquers all things, and love is, especially when it's pure love, it can't be broken, it can't be manipulated, it can't be infiltrated. It is what it is. And so with this, beautiful souls, beautiful beings, I'll leave you to another day, another episode. Stay in your heart, stay in your joy, stay in love. Till next time, beautiful being.